Hello, my friends. Hello, my life warriors, wherever you are in the world. Welcome to the Day In, Day Out podcast. Woo! Today on episode 220, I was very privileged to have Jack Reynolds. He is the co founder and director at Football Beyond Borders. I got to say, we talked about a number of different things, how he got Football Beyond Borders started. Let's just say it was going to be a mission to go to Iran to help do a football tournament over there. One thing led to the other, and let's just say he had to flee to Syria, which was a very interesting story indeed. We talked about the direction where he would like his charity and organization to go, and we talked about how he really sort of got things started with helping local communities over here. All in all, Jack is a great fella, as I call him, young Jack. Great fella. Look forward to speaking with him again in the future. And please enjoy the show. Have a good one, guys. Yes. Peace. Oh, yeah. Oh. Hello, my friends. Hello, my life warriors, wherever you are in the world. Welcome to the Day In, Day Out podcast. Woo! Today on episode 220, I'm very lucky, privileged to have, in fact, Jack Reynolds. He is the co-founder and director at Football Beyond Borders. I've got to say, I met this guy at his charity function where I'm going to admit it right now. Me and my friend, we took Marcus Rashford's chicken because he wasn't there.
Yeah, I'm not going to deny that. He was there, he didn't want it. Even though he was there, he didn't want it. You did the only sensible thing in that situation, right?
Oh, well, what can I say? I was a little bit merrier and yes, a little bit fuller. Yeah. How are you doing today, sir?
Yeah, I'm all good. I've Thursday evening recording time. I don't know if that gives too much away, but a few days at work, few days trying to look after my daughter as well. So trying to get the love wherever I can get it right now. I picked my daughter up from nursery. She was not happy to see me. I was delighted to see her. So just trying to sit with that, this working lifestyle along with trying to be a super involved dad. I mean, she's one for like 13-year-olds. I don't want to see the dads. I feel like a 1-year-old, I'd be safe, but it's not the way I want it to be. But I'm sitting with it.
Look, she might be one. Look, don't worry. You have more fun and games to come down the road. Look, that's like, wait until she hits that magic number. Oh, 12, like 12, just on the 364th day as it hits midnight. And boom, 13 hits. It's like, the strange hours will arise.
Wow, maybe I should be grateful she's prepping me for that. Starting early, right?
Well,
still not happy. So good. I've got 12 years before it really kicks off, and maybe we should look at her preparing me to deal with that sense of panic, that sense of chaos, that sense of rejection, which is probably the natural next step for any parents of teenagers. So glad to hear I'm getting started on it early.
I think this is the thing with regards to anyone who is a parent. No matter what you say, no matter what you do, no matter what prep you put in, you have a little one who is constantly thinking about new and interesting ways to test you, to say the least.
Definitely.
Yeah.
That sums things up for me right now. She just started walking, so it's or how many different ways can you find to get dad to chase you around the room? Like that's currently the it's time to get changed. Good opportunity to get dad to chase me. It's time to try and eat dinner. Good opportunity to get dad to chase me. Time to go home for nursery. And I kind of like chasing. It's fun, right? You've got a lot of other parents thinking, why is that 35-year-old man chasing a 1-year-old girl around the room? It's hard being an outlier.
So let me see. I have to ask, starting a charity is considerably easier than the other full-time job you're currently doing. Would I say? Would I be right in saying that?
Yeah, I'd say so. Different stages and ages, right? I don't think I'd want to be starting a charity in the first year of my daughter's life. I was 24, 25 when Me and my friends got this started. So comparable in some ways. You need a lot of love. You need a lot of energy. You're going to get a lot of rejection. But every morning you'll wake up with a deep sense of purpose. And with that purpose, you'll go again, all that passion, all that energy. You'll make a whole load of mistakes. You'll get a whole load of rejection and you'll come back again. So yeah, a lot of parallels, definitely. I think the charity is nearing the age of 12 or 13. So that's the stage when it probably all goes wrong, to continue the analogy.
Yeah, because like this is the thing. Look, okay, when someone goes, okay, I want to start something, like something bigger than myself, like to sort of help. It's one of those things where not a lot of people could say they're truly focused on what it could possibly be. When you started, was it going to like, did you envision it being one way and then it's like basically evolved and changed and became something completely different with Football Beyond Borders?
Depends how long you want me to go back on the story, but yeah, we're called Football Beyond Borders, so all you international listeners need to realise we don't work internationally. So that's the first clue, that there might have been a little bit of a twist in the road at one point. Not the founding story normally, but I like the way you're setting this one up. So yeah, it was me and a couple of friends met at university, and back then I was shaped by the Iraq War. I was 16 when the Iraq War started. The day after my 16th birthday was the march in London, 2003. And so for me, I was like, wow, I was motivated about avoiding any more wars. Believed in football, played a lot of football, went to university, and it looked at that time like the UK were going to go to war with Iran. Kind of comes back around that one, right? Every now and then it feels like a bit of a repeat cycle. But anyway, we were like, well, we tried doing the protest route. That didn't work. So how about we take a football team to Iran and make a film about it and basically tell a different narrative about the Iranian people. They're not all just, or whether any of them are, but they're not all just charging around trying to get nuclear weapons to drop on London. Yeah. They're kind of like us. They like football and they kind of want to get on with their lives. So that was the initial idea behind Football Beyond Borders. So never gets told. That was 2009. So we officially came back and were founded as the charity you would have seen at that event in 2014. So a whole load of twists and turns along the way. A couple of little twists and turns I'll take you through. So we didn't even make it to Iran because we didn't get visas. So back then we were like, right, well, we've got the money now. We want to go and take a football team. All have us. So we ended up going to the Kurdish part of Turkey. This is 2009, and we got completely co-opted by the Kurdish political party at the time, and ended up essentially, I think, promoting Kurdish independence. This is already going to we weren't expecting. We were very naive, right, at the time. At this point, the Turkish police come to visit us in our hostel. Imagine it's 20 19-year-old football players in New York. It's all gone wrong, right, at this point. Basically, had video footage of everything we'd done for the last week and said, you are in service to the Kurdish independence cause. You have to leave. If you were Turkish, you'd be arrested as your foreigner, and you probably don't know what you're doing. We're going to give you 24 hours to leave. So, in a bizarre twist of fate, we have the very unusual claim to fame. Kurdish part of Turkey borders Iran. We couldn't go there.
Yeah.
Iraq, couldn't go there because there's a war going on. So the only safe haven we had at that time was Syria. So we basically had to flee Turkey before Syria was at war. So we then had the rare honor of being the first football team, a university football team to do a tour of Syria. Bizarre circumstances. So yeah, a very, very long way from what you would have seen in that room. Not a story I normally tell, but you set me up to begin with that conversation.
Yeah, because like, hey, look, put it this way, you're like, yeah, helping like local communities. Yes, I can, yeah, like great message, like working in schools, everything like this. Not like, yeah, not inciting revolutions in like Turkey, not like sort of sneaking across the border to get into Iran and then basically fleeing to Syria. No, that was not like, oh my God, yeah. Wait a second.
Different stages,
different you have a double O in your name somehow?
Yeah, exactly. No, none of that. It was innocent fun and it naivety, but there's a certain wonder in youthful naivety, right? And I think that's probably what was going on. It was well intentioned. I think the major thing which that did, we quickly realized that the way to change the world through football wasn't by doing what were ultimately quite tokenistic international tours. But what that did was a group of people who each year basically went on these crazy football tours. So, that first one I've spoken about, Turkey, Syria, and Lebanon. There was then a trip to the Balkans. There was then a trip to Egypt, Israel, and Palestine. And what became of that 3, 4, 5 years was there was a group of people, 20, 30, 40 people that had some of the most powerful experiences of their lives through being in unusual places for people who've grown up in London and Birmingham. And they've been through that together. So FBB really emerged from a group of people who absolutely trusted each other, who'd had some of the most important experiences of their lives together. And we basically said, right, the way to change things isn't going to be through this international travel. It's wonderful to do it, but it's only benefiting us rather than the places we visit in any sort of long-term sustainable way. And that's when part 2 of FBB began, which was the event you talked about, where you mentioned that Marcus Rashford may or may not have meant to be there, but certainly wasn't there. We can confirm that. The journey continues.
Yeah, far be it for me to mock Marcus Rashford. Yes, he does a lot of good work for school dinners and stuff like this, but he plays for a goddamn awful team. But that's another story. I won't go there. No, I'll just stay away. It's like going,
Who's your team?
Liverpool. So yeah.
Oh wow, fine. Yeah. Well, you're not worried about Man United now, are you? It's fine.
Well, is anyone worried about Man United at this rest of the time? Come on now. You're a Villa fan. Am I right in saying that?
Good pair. No, I mean, you have to edit that out. My dad would not forgive it. He thought I was putting around rumours that I was a Villa fan from Birmingham, but ever the revolutionaries, you seem to be suggesting, or ever the sort of controversial. I chose my mom's team rather than my dad's team. So I'm a Bolton fan, Bolton Wanderers, currently in the lower league. So yeah, Man United don't worry me much either, but for quite different reasons. It would be impossible playing them at the moment.
No, it's okay. It's okay. No one will judge you. It's okay. I imagine it's far easier to eat a turtle than be a Bolton fan at times. You know what I
mean? It's true. Anyways, exactly. So you are a Liverpool fan. Lovely to hear that. What's your sort of supporter story? What made you choose that club?
Well, this is the thing. It's a combination of my best friend at the time, name of Gary, and it was a case of a combination of my dad, who was how can I say, my dad was ever absent in my life. It's he went out. I have no idea when. Maybe he bought a packet of cigarettes, maybe went for some milk, but he went long distance, went all the way over to Nigeria. And seeing as, how can I put it, he's a Man United fan, that wasn't going to sit well with me. And so, you know what I mean?
Perfect.
And let's just say a number of journeys to the fair city of Liverpool. I had friends in John Moores, Liverpool University, and Liverpool Hope. And there was a pub called the Feathers. I can't remember the postcode, but every time went up to visit. This was the time of Julia. So this is Liverpool were if it's a cup game, yes, they it'll be okay. We're going to drag it out. We're going to put you through pain, but we're going to win. So it was So I've missed a number of trains. I've had to go, return to London, the following day, spending more time than I ever had to. And yes, plenty of times being quite inebriated. Let's just say.
So it's the Feathers. So that was your go-to spot.
Yes, it was, because it was literally about 10 minutes away from my friend's house. But it was, do you know the famous Three Kings pub in Kensington?
I mean, you said it's famous, so it kind of puts me at the onus on me to know. I don't want to miss out on that, but no, I could pretend there's 3 crowns outside, but no idea. What makes it famous?
No, basically, if you're a Welsh rugby fan, that is the pub you go to. And I mean, when they're playing, Like during the Six Nation, most of like anyone who's Welsh in the immediate area, I mean, like in the next 20 miles outside of London,
Like a
goes
magnet,
there.
yeah.
Yeah.
They can't help it. They're just sucked in. They're going
Yeah.
in the shopping in the morning.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And there's this wall of sound when they sing and everything like this. And in the feathers, it was like the next best thing than being in the actual stadium itself. It was like, yeah, one of those like true, like proper supporters pub, if you get what I mean.
Beautiful. They are a fine old place to be watching football, let alone the Houllier. What was it, the 5 cups you won or whatever? I don't even remember that. Yeah,
it was a good time. It was a good time. Then he set it up for like Benitez. It's like, yeah, better time. Yeah. Miracle of Istanbul. It was like, yeah. And then we don't talk about the game in like, 2007. No, that's another story.
Ugly. I mean, there's lots of things we can brush over. We'll move forward to the Klopp era. Hey, great time.
Yeah, joy, happiness. Yeah.
2007 onwards, right? Yeah, it's fine.
Yeah.
And then Klopp came, and it was great again.
Yep.
I guess Rodgers was cool as well. That was a cool time, right? There were moments under Rodgers when it was exciting. Before it wasn't. That was a lovely season, right? With scoring all those goals. We've got to focus on the issue, right? And any story, we focus on the ending rather than the journey. But I imagine there must have been a few good moments in the feathers. You cursing your father for choosing the wrong club and all of the things, and those goals going in, Suarez, Sterling, wow, crazy times.
Yes, swore like a sailor and had a good time. But yeah, what was yours? Like, what was your pub? What was the main place you went, like supporting Bowen?
No, I don't have a pub. I'm thinking. I mean, I've been to them, of course. I know about them, but I guess growing up in Birmingham, there were not many Bolton focus clubs. One of the benefits of supporting a big club is that you go to a pub in any city, you'll probably find a few fans of your own club, in that pub. Growing up in Birmingham, I didn't. If anyone's aware of where it may have been, I was yet to find the Bolton themed pub in Birmingham. And I was looking. I used to go to a lot of games. My mom was a big football fan, so we used to go to a lot of games, home and away. So I guess didn't watch a lot of games in pubs, and it is a bit of a cause of sadness to me that not a lot of my friends are Bolton fans. I always get quite excited about the World Cups and stuff because you can watch games in pubs then, right? So that's probably more pub called the Duke of Wellington out in Homerton, where a lot of my friends live, and that's where I saw a lot of fine Euros and World Cup games. It's probably the nearest I can get, jumping on the bar, just in the crowd, the kind of tightly packed in crowd that just feels impossible in the age of COVID. But that last World Cup, right? It's coming back anyway. Hopefully, it's coming back.
Yeah, put it this way, after they get rid of this next work at home order, which I think is going to happen in the next couple of months. Yeah, I think COVID, not so much on the outs, but it's heading in the right direction. So yes, don't worry, you'll be able to be in a crowded room, like hugging random strangers and not, socially distancing will be like a bygone age. But yeah.
That's true. Maybe we'll be more into hugging, right? Because once it's been taken away, on the old parenting philosophy, right? Once you've taken something away from a kid, like they want it back so much. So maybe we'll just be hugging strangers on the streets. We will realize how much we miss that physical contact. We'll be going through past security in airports. We'll be loading our pockets with keys when we go through the X-ray machine just to get a bit of physical contact.
Okay. Well, be careful with that. He's like going, yeah, that's it. Human contact. No.
So I'm getting carried away. You're doing good host. You bring out my better nature maybe, and occasionally goes too far, but I'm delighted to be here with you.
There is nothing wrong with going a little bit too far. There are always lines you have to cross. Basically, oh, look at that line. But yeah, I'm going to go right past it. I have to ask, like being a Bolton fan, what was the first game you actually saw in the actual Bolton stadium?
I can answer that all day. Yeah, that pub question just caught me off guard. Three Kings caught me off guard. First ever Bolton game. This is the reason I shouldn't be a Bolton fan really, but I think my parents later separated, but I wonder if it was beginning to be a bit of a, you know, the sort of feud over children's loyalties began when I was sort of 5 years old, basically. And my dad took me to a couple of Albion games. So West Bromwich Albion, I think, you know, our family's claim to fame. We go all the way back to the factory, like the line of the factory the club was founded out of. My great grandfather, you know, it's like every male in my line is a West Bromwich Albion fan, right? And tattoo, you know, it's a long family history. And I went to a couple of games and I just wasn't feeling it. I was just like, I think I fell asleep at one of them. I think the lesson, my dad went too early and he took me when I was maybe 3 or 4. My mom maybe knew me a bit better, but buying a good time. Anyway, somehow, I don't know how this happened, but Bolton got in a promotion battle, but again, didn't take me. I was like, Mom, you seem excited when Bolton keep on winning. What's going on? She's like, yeah, I know. We'll try and get there at some point. She really amped it up. Anyway, last game of the season, Division 2. Imagine this for Glamour Tie. Bolton Wanderers at home to Preston North End. Doesn't get bigger than that. Anyway, Mom's like, we've got tickets. We're going. I was like, wow, finally, I don't have to go and sit and fall asleep watching West Brom with my dad up the M6. We went to the game. I didn't really know what was going on at this point. I was 5 years old.
Yeah.
Bolton turned out, if we won, we went up. And if Preston lost, they went down. So it was all happening. 85th minute, John McGinley, penalty, 1-0 to Bolton. Bolton promoted. And at the end of the game, everyone ran on the pitch, which is what So I'm saying to my mom, this is brilliant. You get to go on the pitch at the end of the game and you go up. Like, this is my club. Probably a bit of a weird decision 32 years later when we're in bloody League One and I live 400 miles away. But anyway, you fall in love without thought, with full passion, and then you deal with the consequences later on. And that's definitely my Bolton story.
I hear you. And like, talking about falling in love, like, this is the thing, like, with you starting, Football Beyond Borders, and like, okay, doing, like, I don't know, sorties into many a dangerous country. What sort of brought you to, like, going, hey, okay, rather than going abroad, like, these communities need our help. These communities need to, like, a helping hand. What was the thing? What drew you in?
Yeah. I mean, the first thing, of course, is that entire set of trips hadn't really, hadn't worked out exactly as we planned. So there's a bit of that. But London riots happened in 2011, of course. And me and Jazz, who was really the kind of driving force in those early stages, and the international tours, and was still involved, and we had a chat, and then we basically said, look, there's all this energy, there's this wonderful group of people who want to do something, and we're spending all that energy internationally, and our city's being torn apart. So what would there be to do with this use of football, this great passion, this wonderfully energetic group of friends? Where might the solutions be? And we had a friend who was a teacher, and he basically said to me, we got a group of year 7, so 11-year-old boys who love football, but they do not like school one bit. And if something changes, they're not making it to their 13th birthday. They're going to be out before then. They're out of school. Is there anything you guys can do? So we just said, this is February. We were like, we'll give it a go. I was coaching, youth working at the time, as was Jazzy. Basically said, cool, we'll do a little program based on what we think might work. Classroom time, hour in the classroom, homework, hour on the pitch, football. Let's see if it works. And we basically said to these young people, if you do well at school, at the end of the year, this is kind of budget, a bit less ambitious, we'll take you on a football tour to Scotland. Imagine it. The Promise, Hearts, Celtic, Kilmarnock, Green at Morton. That's not going to turn someone's behaviour around. What will?
I think you'll be safer in Iraq. I'm just saying.
I've heard similar comments, but my wife's Scottish. I'm a big fan of Scotland. So wonderful country to be in, but maybe some of the boys didn't have quite that feeling. Anyway, got to July. I think 12 of the 13 and the 14 boys had done really well. We went on the tour to Scotland, right, and it's going really well. And it's all been just a kind of short-term reaction, I guess. The riots had happened, and then our friend had spoken to us, and there was no big plan behind it. And boy basically who really tough life, had grown up in care, really struggled at school, basically said to us, you guys are coming back next year. This has been great. You're coming back again. You know, he's turned around his behaviour at school. You're going to come back next year. And we sort of looked at each other, me and Jazz, and just, we said, we don't know. We haven't really given it any thought at this point. We hadn't. It was a real reaction, short-term passion to a situation we saw. And the boy turned to us and said, I'll always remember, he said, you guys are snakes. You're just like every other adult I've ever met in my life. You come in, you make promises, and then you leave. And it was in that moment we were like, wow, this is powerful, this is big, and it's a huge moment of responsibility for us, right? We have those moments in our life. Do we step up and really commit to this project, which it seems like these boys at least are absolutely crying out for? Or do we walk away and leave it? And we both said, let's take that plunge. Jazzy quit his job at that moment and kind of went in 3 days. I imagine another couple of days doing it, and then luckily at that point other schools started calling. Teachers had seen the program and they basically said, we want this at this school. We've got a group of boys just like those boys. We've heard that you guys are doing something, whatever it might be, to support them. And that was 7 years ago now, right? It's now 95 programs, London, Greater Manchester, Yorkshire, Liverpool, launching back in Birmingham, where I'm from, in September. So anything I ever talked about, there's never a grand strategy behind it. It always comes out of love, it comes out of relationships, and it comes out of a very heartfelt response to the needs of those around us. And maybe the next charity we begin, whatever that might be, maybe we'll move on. Maybe I'll be a bit more strategic, who knows? But it's a wonderful thing to do something with your friends based on that shared love, that shared passion you hold, and for something to grow out of it.
Because this is the thing, I hear that and I love that, because look, this is the thing, 7 years of doing it, and 13 years altogether. First half, I'm beginning to think you guys were just a black ops group which just went around the country, around the world, doing whatever you did, but that's another story. But 7 years of doing this side of things, the part 2, and basically getting helping 1,500 people, young people, get their lives together, putting them on a path where it's so easy to sort of drift out of the sort of education system. It's so easy to go a different way. It's so easy to go, this is not for me. How did that, you know what I mean? Are you surprised of the sort of magnitude you've had, the effect you've had on these people?
Wow, what loads of ways to answer that. I'm just kind of sitting with the feeling of what you've spoken about, right? It's a lot of people, a lot of young people whose lives we've been involved with. What do I think? What football's super powerful, right? We know that. We're connected already around the stories of Liverpool, the Feathers, Bolton and Burnham Park. So it's powerful. And I guess then the second thing is young people themselves are powerful. There's no look, the work we do is hard, it's long term. We're working with young people in difficult circumstances, but we're not doing anything to them, right? We're just finally providing those spaces where we say, look, you do matter. Look, you're brilliant. And look, this is the form within which you're going to shine. So on the one hand, I spend an awful lot of time thinking, how can we do more? What tweaks can we make to the way we work with young people? How do we recruit more staff? But the other thing is there's a real simplicity to it, right? It's that age, right? All our most powerful stories of memories, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. I mean, it all goes wrong as well at that time, but it's also the time when memories are formed, when we're so open to the world, we want to know everything. And so we have this wonderful opportunity that we work with young people during this formative age, when their friendships are formed, when their sense of self is formed, when their sense of what's possible is formed. So surprised in terms of how big FBB has got. Not surprised in terms of what's changed with our young people. I think my mom has always taught me to be an optimist, right? And believe in young people, believe in my friends, believe in those around me. And I guess I just try and carry that through the work we do. And Yeah, I get stoned sometimes. It's not always easy being an optimist in this world, but it's lovely to reflect with you on where that journey's gone.
Yeah, like this is the thing. Like what I would simply say with like the programs you run, you help like kids like become that pathfinder to help them find their way onto the next thing. It must be kind of like, okay, yeah, you can do this. There is this opportunity, and look, there are different options out there for you. You might not be a football player, but yeah, like my man there with the deep voice at the event, who wanted to be like engineer.
Oh,
So yeah,
what moment that was. What a moment. Mechanical engineer, yeah, estate agent. I think there are a few surprises. It's not the normal one, but that's the reality of it. What were your experiences like when you were what was your life like at school when you were 12 or 13? Who were the key relationships for you?
like this is the thing. Key relationships with me with like yeah, my friends and stuff like this. I would say with regards to teachers, there might be like one teacher, Miss Milligan. She was the science teacher, who like had a sort of yeah, more of a profound effect on like sort of my outlook on like certain things. But I would say one of the things which really sort of helped me when I was like growing up, there was a game back in the day called Quasar, which like they had a place in Turnpark Lane.
Yeah.
And like this is the thing, it was one of those things where because I was meeting a cross section of people, like
Yeah.
completely outside of where I lived locally, it was like okay. So it was like yeah, I was meeting people who are on the same economic like stratosphere as I was, higher, and like basically different sort of parts of the city. So I was like getting a very sort of enriched sort of um, interaction with people I would never have that opportunity to do so with.
Wow, it was Quasar. That was your
Yeah.
thing.
Yes.
Wow. What, like, was it like every weekend? How did you get in? I mean, I always give me like the knife through butter rating whenever I go at Quasar. I remember just like struggling in Quasar. So, but what was happening? Like, did you just go every week? Like, I never heard about someone. I know people do it, but it's like an ongoing hobby. Was it like week in, week out? Like, what's the story
Yeah.
like?
Like basically, it was down to my friend Dominic Lauman. Like he was like, yes. He was like, oh, there's this new game. I was like, okay, yeah. You go around, running around, like yeah, shooting people with
Yeah.
infrared guns. So I was like, okay. Went down on the Sunday with him. And yeah, managed to get the highest score in my first game. I was like, oh, right.
Wow.
Like, yeah, basically 2 games in, and I was like pretty much, yeah, in, well, like in full time because that was the summer of, oh, good God, 89. So yeah, so good times. Ahoy. Yeah.
Like a different group, like you said, like you met lots of people who weren't from your area. Was it that like would people like come and meet up? Was it just you turn up and like? So I used to go for like parties and stuff at the bowling lanes, right? That's how I remember it. But I never saw it as knew it as like a coming together place, basically. You know, so how did that work? Would you like?
Yeah,
Because
like
phones, right? How are you meeting up? Was it just who's there, like hiding around the corner? You're going to shoot him. You'll see him afterwards. Like, oh, you got me with the laser. That was cool.
yeah, and you know what? It was kind of random just showing up. And then basically, because you had to like hang out for a long time, a lot of conversations were had. Some like, okay, I don't know how thought provoking you can like get as like, yeah, like snotty nose 14-year-old. But yeah, you know what I mean? Like, yeah, the conversations were had and like yeah bonds were like built and I've got to say many of the people I made friends with from there, yeah, I'm still thankfully friends with them today. You know what I mean?
Love that. Love that. Quasar crew.
Hey,
Never. Is that where you met Jonah by the chance?
no, you know what? Like I met Jonah like through a mutual friend of ours, like Ed Sadu. Yes, like let's just say it what we met at Holloway. He was with this, I can't remember her name, but yeah, but like this seemed to be the running theme for like when I kind of met him for the first sort of interactions that I go, okay, oh, okay, yeah. And like who's this girl now? And who's his girl? But yeah, but yes. I met him when he was like a filthy vegetarian, and then like he went all over to the United States and they broke him. So they went, yeah, yeah.
I do that in the States. I do that for a lot of people, right? You know, you go over there for the principles, come back a different person. Yeah, I hear that.
Absolutely. And yeah, so it's like basically, yeah, if it wasn't for me going to Quasar, meeting Ed, then I would not have known like Jonah whatsoever. Even though we live in a sort of 4 or 5 mile like sort of vicinity of each other. But when you're talking about kid distance, for geez,
Yeah.
half a mile's like the other side of the
Oh,
moon, you know?
definitely. Well, so because Jonah Tommy grew up in, so you grew up in North London, did you?
Indeed, I did. Yes, in the Tottenham area. So I was close enough to spit at the stadium. So you know what I mean. That's another
Wow.
story.
Yeah.
I won't get you involved in that because you've got contacts you need to build and stuff like this.
True. True. Can't be bandwagon Tottenham right now. Definitely not. I want to fascinate about that. How long did the weight equator stage go on? Like, what did it move on to? Like, I'm all about young people and their hobbies and where they come together. I think it's a really precious
Yeah,
stage of life. So,
yeah,
never heard of a story like that before.
yeah, that sort of side of my life was, I would say, for maybe about 3 years. Yeah,
Well,
if that, because it was like, yeah, it was like all fine and good when you were in school and everything like this. But when you sort of like, yeah, got through like school, like GCSEs, A levels, or B Tech, as it was for myself, yeah, moved on. Everyone kind of moved on from there. And yeah, it was like, okay, Quasar was a good time. It was a nice opportunity to like meet so many people, and it led on to other things. So you know what I mean. I was happy was in my life, you know.
Yeah, no, I hear that, and see, I talk a lot about football in my world, and football was a big part of it. Like, I played a lot of football, but my big thing at that age was skateboarding.
Yeah.
So I was like double life with the skateboarding, but the way you talk about Quasar reminds me of that, right? You know, I grew up in Birmingham, right? I had my 2 or 3 boys, and my brother used to skate, and they heard that I had a skateboard because my brother had one, and they were playing Tony Hawks, and
Yeah.
they came on the door one day, and you know, asked for a skateboard. Actually, asked for a skateboard and a pestle and mortar, because I think they you know, you can imagine why they wanted to do. Anyway, bought the skateboard, got the skateboard off me, and then yeah, we used to go for like three years, right? The summers are amazing places, and we go to Birmingham City Centre. You'd meet people who are probably from, like you say, even less so in Birmingham, right, 2 or 3 miles away, and then they'd be skating there, and then they'd have the local skate spots. So yeah, a lot of what you said about that Quasar story really rings true to me in skateboarding. And again, like that crew of friends, they're my closest friends to this day, actually, more so than my footy friends.
Yeah, and like this is the thing. Like one of the things, because of that opportunity to sort of meet people outside my area and stuff like this. Like yes, that interaction, it gave me a few advantages, because one of the things, like I cannot remember the name of the kid who was going to like wants to do engineering.
I think it was Shay. It was Shay and Ashton on stage.
Yeah, like basically he, like when he was coming off stage, like one of the ladies on our table, oh god, why am I blanking? Was like, okay, yes, I can help you with this, I can help you with that, and like this is the thing.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Christy.
Chris,
Yeah.
yes. But it's a case of being able to get in, like be in the room where, like, you know what I mean, where opportunity to meet other people who, it's a case of, we live in a world where, okay, people go, oh, you're rich, you're privileged and everything like this. When you're like rich or stuff, you have certain connections, they say. But if you don't, if you're trying to go on the come up, there are sort of opportunities to meet people, which doesn't necessarily have to be rich, just to go, okay, maybe you can do this, maybe you can do that. To have that sort of mentoring strokes to it are very much cut off from a large percentage of like kids out there. So like turning that from a losing situation to a winning situation to something maybe greater, you know?
That's exactly that. And there's loads of different ways to talk about FBB, but that is a big underlying part of the vision, right? Which is basically there's power, privilege, opportunity in one space in our society, and then there's a whole lot of young people in another part of our society, and those two bits of the world, they never meet, right? They never meet.
Yeah.
So you just get complete disconnects. And so what are the things in our society which bridge those two divides? And absolutely probably the best way to do that is through football. We just know that because of course it was, it was a working class game, but in many ways now, right, the Premier League, all that, it's a pretty classless game, right? And it is probably the one thing left in our society which will get someone who, went to Eton and is now a banker in a room with someone who grew up on an estate in, Walker in Newcastle, right? And he's studying at school. Like, they will have that connection. So if you talk about bridging relationships, which is often what good mentoring is about, right? Not so you necessarily know anyone, there's loads of different ways, but not so you necessarily know the person who lives next door. So that's important too, right? Those community-based relatable role models. But in terms of employability, opportunity, right? So those bridging relationships. And we think football is a really powerful way to do that. I'm sure you came to that event maybe because you got asked, maybe because you like the underlying cause of what FDB are about, but maybe you just thought, this is my chance to hang out with a few footballers and ask Park Ji-sung about the Champions League final. Who knows? I don't know you well enough, but half our crowd, I'm sure, are there for the football more than the young people. But once they're in there, they're there for the young people, right?
Yeah, no, this is the thing. When you see this happening, basically you go, okay, there is other opportunities there. There is other avenues I can take. You go, wow. You just all of a sudden it's bam. And I like that about what you guys have done, because it's hard work and it's hard to sometimes bring people together. Yeah, you might have a banker from the city, and you might get someone from a estate in Newcastle, in the sort of realms of football and stuff like this. But some people which can go, yeah, if you do this or do that with these young people who are looking for their way in the world. Yeah. Wow. That is powerful.
At that age, someone who can show you that way. That's the point. At that age, they're so impressionable. 13, 14, 16. We're just ready for the world. We're ready to be told. I always remember an event we did with a guy called John McAvoy, who's now a super successful triathlete, but crazy story about growing up and basically ended up in prison, and all spoke about all these heroes, all the adults in his life, all his heroes were criminals. So he became a criminal. And he was like, well, if all the heroes in my life had been whatever, doctors or plumbers or chefs, I would have become one of those things, right? It was just, they were what the kind of people I trusted in my life were doing. So I did that. It talks about wasting sort of 15 years of his life in this guy should go on his show. Crazy story. He's a super successful Nike, maybe, I don't know, Adidas triathlete. Not triathlete even, I get confused about his long distance, these kind of endurance athletes is the right word. But anyway, he was in prison. He just started working out in prison, and he tells a story about he was rowing in every day in the gym, and he was just getting better and better at it. But he just rowing, right? Because he was bored. He was 23, 24, and he was in prison for armed robbery. So he was doing a long stretch, and one of the guards was just thinking, man, this guy's good. And he just rode and rode and rode, and counts the miles on the machine. Yeah. And the guard timed it one time, didn't tell him, and then he looked at how much distance he covered, and then the guard went and checked online, and he'd broken the indoor rowing record. So anyway, crazy story. Now out of prison, and big friend of Football Beyond Borders. There's a lot of stuff with us because he's got that really powerful story. The fact that when he was 13, 14, 15, the people he was spending time with were an example for him to follow, and it was a really, really bad example for him to follow. So I think what we're talking about here really, really links back to his story.
I hear that, and just yes, you've just broken the indoor rowing record.
It's too good, isn't
it? Yeah. You might want to consider taking up sport. Just saying. Look. All I've got to simply say to you is this: armed dropping might not be the best thing for you, because I am here talking to you right now, and you I have keys, you don't. But yeah, rowing might be your thing. It's
he said that to him when he was 12 or 13. And on the one side, because this stuff is also intensely relational, right? Someone could have said that to him when he's 12 or 13. But like, if all his key relationships, all the key adults in his life, all his key friends were going down a different route, like we just know adolescence, it's your brain structure, it's all about peer acceptance. It's just, the whole dopamine release, our entire brain at that stage is so focused on peer acceptance. So that's, I think, within the mentoring bit where sometimes things can get confused. Definitely there is a need for adults to come into your life who can show you a different path, but that has to take place within a relational context. And I say relational context within two things. A, you need to be shown why you should trust that adult. So that story about me, that boy, grew up in care, he's not trusting me unless I'm there for a full 2 years or 3 years. He'll trust me after 3 years. He might trust me when I come back at the end of year one, possibly. But for that first 12 months, his model is whatever this guy says is bullshit or is nonsense, because everyone else who ever told me anything, it never came with anything. So A, that's the first part, that relational context, which makes really good mentoring, particularly with adolescents. And the second thing is they don't really care what the adults are about. They care on some level, but really they care what their peers are doing. So that's why it has to take place within a wider group. So FBB, right, it's 16 young people in every group on a 4-year journey, because we know that mentor will be there for them for a little while. They may be the transformational person for 2 or 3 years. He talks about a teacher, Mrs. Hilligan or something.
Milligan.
Yeah, but they're getting a new teacher the year after that, right? Or our staff will have to move on to to a different role or to a different group. Who's going to be with them? Your boys from Quasar, right? 3 years later, 4 years later, 5 years later, 6 years later, when things go wrong. So young people, particularly young people from disadvantaged backgrounds, it's a technical term, right? But young people who often grow up on rough estates, high crime, overcrowded housing, mom without a lot of savings in the bank, who are they going to turn to when they're 18, 19 because they need a couch to sleep on? Who are they going to turn to when they're 18, 19 because they need a bit of money because their latest job didn't work or because their girlfriend broke up with them? We've all got those stories. Some of us go back home, right? And we've got a nice spare room at home. A lot of us don't. A lot of us go to our friends' houses. So that, I think, is also within the mentoring conversation. It's really important for me, the two bits of the relationships that make good mentoring. An adult who's going to stick around, so you will trust them. And secondly, a group of friends who have got the same intentions as you, who've got the same norms as you, who want to go somewhere with you, but ultimately are going to back you when things go wrong. Because if not, the one thing that's certain about life, right? Things are going to go wrong, right? That's the one certainty from what I can tell. And we know when things go wrong, we need the people we love around us.
No, very true. Very true. Yes, everyone has to eat that turtle once in a while. That's all I got to simply say. It's a tough beat. Yeah, because no, you're right. You're quite right. And like with doing the program for 4 years, it's a case of it's, how can I say, it's building sort of deep roots rather than sort of like shallow and superficial to help people go on that much further. Like I have to ask, because look, you sort of touched on it like lightly, because you're like, you got started with one group, and like that lad who was like, okay, no, you're a snake, you're not going to be here like 12 months from now, and you were like, you said how did the word go around from other schools and like other like communities to like, wait, this is what they like, I saw this program. How did it happen?
Few things. Few of the stories coming your way, maybe. Well, first one, just on a pure, boring, practical one. First school we worked at was a school which then was really struggling, kind of Ofsted special measures. And schools which are struggling tend to have high staff turnover. So it was actually a bit, I'm watching that David Attenborough Green Planet at the moment, all about like pollinating flowers. It's a bit like that, right? Imagine we were at this school, probably, I don't know, 100 teachers there, and it probably had 30 or 40 teachers who left at the end of that year because it was, it transitioned to an academy. There was loads of change happening, but that was like 30, 40 pollen or whatever, me and my plant-related knowledge, I'm going to stop right there. Extended football metaphors I can do, but plant metaphors, you get me, right?
Look, like I can tell you're a botanist from another, like that's the other thing. Like, you raise up that thumb, it'll be green. It's like, Jack Reynolds, football beyond borders and botany. There you go. I'm liking it.
We'll be on botany or whatever, all those sorts of options. Anyway, that happened. So that was the one thing. And secondly, just on that note, we all went to school ourselves. Like, we just know that sadly, every single year group has often a group of boys and increasingly a group of girls who they are just struggling. They're falling behind, right? It's just, we all could name, everyone I ever meet could name the 2, 3, 4 young people from their school for whom FPB would have benefited, right? It's the kids who love footy, but they're a bit lost. They don't always know where to turn, and they're struggling with school and a lot of the relationships in their life. So there was a real recognized need in the system for what we did at a time when, again, a lot of people at the time were all about GCSEs. And the way you, in the short term thinking, was like, we want to get GCSEs. So what we're going to do, we're going to throw a load of money at young people who are in the final year of school about to do their GCSEs. And we were always kind of on the other side of that way. We were very much like, no, we're going to work early intervention when the challenges start to begin, when those relationships start to form, when the young people start to fall behind at school. So because of that, there weren't a lot of other solutions. So suddenly everyone's like, wow, these guys are doing great stuff at this school I was just at. You guys, suddenly, this group of boys, and it often was boys back then, and also they're quite public, those boys. You notice them. You notice the naughty boys, right? So in a weird kind of way, they're quite good marketing toys. Quite good marketing tool. Once you've got in your mind the idea that these guys are really good at working with boys who are a bit problematic. You're at a new school, first day down the corridor, you got the kid pushing the other kid and making a load of noise. You're thinking, I don't know what to do about these boys, but I know somebody who could. So there's a bit of that. And then finally, a guy, founder stories are always interesting. Me and Jazz talk about ourselves as the co-founders, and there was lots of other people involved from both stages. But Joe Watford, Tom Bateman, and a guy called Pez. At the time called Positivity. You and him would have a lovely time, right? He's off on a commune now. Things have changed for him, but he was there in the early days. And at that time, he's one of these wonderfully passionate, slightly obsessive personalities at times, right? But everyone, wonderful man, crazy story. Grew up in Zimbabwe, to missionary parents who sort of left the church to fall in love with each other when they were 40, then decided to have some children. He grew up in Zimbabwe. He moved to England when he was like 14, ended up moving in with a guy who's now the star of Bridgerton, like crazy story, whatever. Anyway, went to Cambridge. He's wild guy who I'd love you to Anyway, he was part of that crew at the start, and he was just into comms at the time. So he was like, I'm just going to tell every single person I meet about FBB. It's not in any way strategic, but whether it's Twitter, we're going to get Joey Barton down, and that's what it takes. We're going to get Ramirez down, whatever. It was just the most random set of people all through this guide. So even today, whenever I meet anybody, they're like, "Oh, you're from FBB? Oh, I know Pez."
He's like, Pez has struck again. It's like, yeah.
Exactly that. It's a wonderful man. So if you're ever looking for a guest for a week or two, you just want an all-round visionary, a wonderful man to spend an hour and 15 minutes speaking to, talking about commune life out in Tenerife, talking about the journey from Zimbabwe to Cambridge, talking about power of love with missionary parents, putting their love for each other over the church. There's all sorts of narrative lines. Got a lot of love for Pezza. So he's got to get a bit of credit in this call as well.
No, absolutely. All hail the mighty Pez. Hail. There you go. Come on, yes. Put respect on his name. So with you, your co-founder, Jess, right? Is that your co-founder?
Yeah. Jess, called Jasper Kane.
Jessica, the mighty Pez, hail, yeah.
All hell better. Yeah. We were ready to take on the world, right? Could have done anything. We chose the most ridiculous business to be in, which is supporting teenage boys and girls. I mean, what? We've gone for the moon landing with that energy and passion, but we've gone to one of the most under-resourced and trickiest areas of the world to be working in. Sort of struggling schools and struggling teenage boys. It was a mad choice at the time, but it felt true to our story.
Yeah, you know what? Yeah, you're right. It is a bit of a mad mission to go on, and you know what I mean. Three plucky individuals hitting the streets, and one maverick called Pez, and wherever the rest of the Black Ops team, which is in a situation that getting things done. But now, looking at your website, you have like, yeah, you have almost like two teams of like, yeah, two full, like 11 side teams with substitutes and then
And
some.
stuff. Oh
Like,
yeah.
did
We-
you
we-
like, does it surprise you when you like look around and go, I've got all these people like who have signed up to my passion, like my like purpose, this mission we are like doing? Does it kind of like what does that do for oneself?
Uh, I mean, firstly, I wouldn't say like my mission, my passion, definitely not. You know, it's like super relational. As in it was a group of us. So like,
Yeah.
I think it's always important to name that. I think sometimes it can be like individual narratives. It's
Mm,
definitely missed. If anything comes off this call, it's like people do things through relationships. And I was blessed to go to university at a time when there was a wonderful set of people who decided to do some crazy things together. And to carry that energy. The reality is, I would say, to go back to what we said earlier, once you fled Turkey to Syria, you know, the kind of anything else from that point onwards feels very possible. I guess I'm a funny combination of someone to talk to around this sort of stuff, because I really try and like live in a moment, and I basically act on what feels right to me in
mm,
each moment, right? We probably talked a lot about not being too strategic and there being a big vision for it. So even you asking me, is that a surprise that people have, you know, the people, you've got all these people? It's almost like I've kind of never really noticed it happening, right? That's the reality. As in, it's just bit by bit what has felt like the right thing to do in this moment, right? To go to this school because there's a teacher who feels like a great fit, who's really worried about us, to put on this dinner, right? It's been a whole set of accumulated in the moment experiences, which have led to suddenly, you know, you just kind of look around, you're like, wow. And actually, it's funny talking because my sorry, I live in the present, but I'm also super ambitious and driven for. I'm just angry about how messed up things are for so many people in our society, right? Like
mm.
it's just clear how unnecessarily difficult it is for so many people to achieve their potential, how like on every count. So, and this weird combination of both being like, whatever happens, it feels right to me. Like I'm in the present, it's the right thing. I'm not even going to notice how big we've got, while also being like, guys, like, have you seen what's going on here? And there's this magical combination of people who've already gone from or three people to 60 people, from 10, you know, one school to 95 schools. So I really haven't answered your question apart from to say that, like, it's been relational, it's been in a moment, it's been a series of intensely felt, fully authentic moments.
Mm.
And I also think we're just getting started. So that's, I guess, the best way to answer your question.
Okay, if you're just getting started, so uh, what direction do you want this to go? Because like yeah, like I look at this picture of like yes, your beautiful team, like look like all dressed in black and like yeah, ready to go. Like
Yeah.
yeah, you've helped like 1,500 like kids. You've got
Mm.
like 91 programs like going on, and yeah, it just and you're like, I'm just getting started. So, like, you say you don't have this overarching plan, but you have, like, I feel like a wanderer in the wilderness. You like look out and go, I want to go in that direction. And what does that
Mm.
direction look like?
Probably the word which has been spoken about the most in this conversation, right, is relationships. So, and I'm also super ambivalent as to whether FBB in and of itself is the only vehicle for achieving this. But essentially, we know there's 200,000 young people in our secondary schools who probably don't have an adult in their life who they can trust. It's a
Mm,
figure, 200,000, right? Children need plan, young people who just feel like they're about to enter this crazy stage where their brain's going to start messing with them, where putting them and telling them what to do, and they don't know who they can trust in that stage. So, let's say we're working with 2,000 young people, or 1,500, 2,000 young people.
mm,
That's about 1%, right, of young people currently who maybe don't have those relationships and really need them. So this is the mission for FBB. This is where we want to get to. You want every teenager in the country to have a trusted adult by their side through those years. We just know it's what makes a difference, right? Of course, there's friends around that as well, but yeah, so FBB will keep on adding new programs. I'm sure there's this wonderful momentum, and that will be particularly for young people who are passionate about football. But the change we have to see in our system and our school system, but also our society as a whole. We touched on COVID, right? We have to realize that beyond anything else, we live or die by our relationships. That the quality of our life is measured by the quality of our relationships. And until we get that through the system, we've got no chance. So I just look at, we talk about schools during COVID, right? The whole narrative, catch up. Has every young person done their homework? If every school in the country had asked at the start of that pandemic, how can we ensure that every young person, all of our students, maintain a trusted relationship with an adult during this period, we would not have half of the problems we're seeing now, with young people not coming back to school, with people falling behind, with people not doing not doing the homework. So that's the mission. That's what we're getting to. How can we come back here in 10 years time, 20 years time, whatever, hopefully still doing the pods, we'll come back and we'll say, wow, actually it's beautiful. Now every young person in the country has someone they can talk about. I can say, this person backed me for 2 years, 3 years at the time when things could really have gone one way or another. And I know FBB will be part of that. I'll be a part of that. But the reality is, we aren't going to reach 200,000 young people ourselves. But the change we need to see in the system is a complete focus on relationships as the building block for every young person's academic life and life beyond school.
Yeah, I hear that. Oh, wonderful. I love that. Yeah, I love that.
Is that what you were looking for? Yeah.
Hey, I like that. I like that because this is the thing. It's, how can I put it? You're like this little secret at this moment in time. No, if you do what I mean.
I like that. Yeah.
Because True. It's like what you do is highly impactful, but you are not really known out there in the world. And I think that might change very soon. And it'll be a case of, okay, no one knows about you. And then it's going to be one of those things. Overnight, everyone's going to know about you and go, oh, this overnight success. But it's like, no, it's been like a 13, 14-year journey getting to this point. You know what I mean?
Exactly that. Probably the way of any overnight success, right? I'd be like, guys, refer to day in, day out pod 241 or I don't know what number I am, but it's been going on for a while, right? There's been all sorts of stories. So you're right. I think that's probably I'm sure some of your guests have spoken about this sort of the myth of overnight success. The successes, they don't exist, right? There's a lot of time and effort which goes to anyone ever knowing you. I would imagine, but people come to you quite late, don't they?
Yeah, well, hey, this is the thing. I have to ask, so with this, turning it from this wonderful little secret, how are you gonna sort of get that out there so it's still a wonderful thing, but it's no longer a secret?
Oh no, this is where we need to get Pez back, right? This is probably the weak point of me as a leader. This is where we got Pez and Jazz. Look, we've got football. This is a powerful force. We're working with a lot of some really exciting brands in the UK. A lot of people are all over us, but my view is probably naively that it's the work that shows. So the way we're going to keep on doing it while I'm in charge, the way we're going to get known is by going into schools every single day, spending all our time and effort on the idea of we put young people first. And to do that, we're going to make sure we recruit brilliant people. We look after them in the right way. That's my whole focus, right? It's a whole bit of feedback I get a lot of the time, right? You've spoken to me, right? I'm super passionate. I can go and talk about this, but I spend most of my time thinking about how can we make this the best place in the country to work with young people? How can we make sure that our young people have a brilliant experience of FBB? These are the questions I'm asking. And naively or not, I assume that if I do that, I'll meet people like you along the way, the people who know a little bit more about getting hype, about getting publicity, about spreading the word. And you'll say, you know what, this is something beautiful that I want to be a part of. This is a message I want to take to the world, take to the millions. And you guys can trust me to be guarding the sort of integrity of that word, of that mission. But I'm not the man to come here and say, this is the commerce plan, or this is what we're going to get to. You know, the work will do that for me, I hope. And it's been okay so far, definitely. You know, people know about it. So we're not completely irrelevant, but as you say, the gap between the potential and the level of knowledge is huge. And I think if you had Jazz or Pez on this podcast, they talk much more in those terms, which is why we're a good team. And they think, they almost feel like we've got this secret, and there's something almost like a moral obligation, right, to make people to like get the word out. I just don't feel that in the same way. I don't know, too introverted or too miserable or too skeptical about the world. I don't know what you'd say, but I'm just there doing the work to try and make sure the organization itself is putting stuff for young people, and I hope that what the rest will follow.
Okay, I'm liking that.
What do you think? I mean, you're the you're the podcast superstar. What's the word? Like, how do you get the word out on these kind of things? How do you get the the powers that be and the influences of the world? We've tried. You know, we got Parchi sung at the dinner. You know, we've had Righty at our last, our big showcase. Things happen, but it's still not quite where we want it to be, is it?
Well, like, this is the thing. What I would simply say to you is this: with regards to, like, the context you have in football and getting football players involved and everything like this, like, you should, like, I think, and like, this is just something what comes to my mind, just like here, if you can get hold of sort of like football YouTubers, like people like True Geordie, like people who do this sort of little commentary and stuff like this, Roy Jennings and stuff like that, involved, it just would go out to maybe a little bit more of a wider football community. Like, this is the thing. I'm not too sure if you guys, I don't believe you guys have got a podcast. I've seen your YouTube channel.
We thought about doing one for a little while. Yeah, never happened. Young People podcast. I might pick that up again. Yeah, it was a thing. There was even some shows recorded.
No, I think you should do that, because like, this is the thing. Like, it's a case of, okay, I don't know how many people you'll get in the beginning, but if you've got a lot of young people with a lot of passion, like telling their story, and like, you know what I mean, you have, like, they come in, tell their story, and like, go like through some of the stuff they're going through. The story is everything. Like, for example, like the Victoria Cross, the Victoria Cross, like, it's a piece of iron from like a Napoleon cannon. Like, the cross means literally nothing. It's like going, here, you've got the Victorian Cross. Congratulations. But it's the story, what goes along with that medal, the whole story of the valor which has made that person earn that award, is the most important thing. And like, if you're getting like youngsters like being able to like tell their story on a more one-to-one basis, get that sort of connection, hey.
Right. No, I'm thinking as well that date for your diary, 17th of February, Tottenham Stadium, Thursday night. We're going to have, this is our big showcase. We get all of our young people come together. It's a whole load of initiatives, like 90 minutes of interactive workshops, flipping the script, young people showing you a little bit of what they know about the world, a chance for you to learn from them. And then there's a wonderful stage show where the most powerful stories in our network, essentially, hosted by young people on stage. And it's, I know you don't like Tottenham, but it's a wonderful venue, fantastic new stadium, right, overlooking the pitch. Hundreds of people in this room, and just our young people from Burnley, from Bolton, from Liverpool, from London, Croydon. They're all there and they're telling their story. So I would love it if you could come along to that. In fact, it's Thursday night, it's podcast night. You might be booked up.
Let's see.
Thursday the 17th.
The 7th
February.
Now this is the thing. Okay. 17th might be a possibility. Like, yeah.
Give me along. I'll send you an invite off the back of this call. It'd be lovely you'll see, and then from that, it'd be great to have conversations. You'll see some of the stories there are. What is the way that we should get those stories out? What are the best medium for it? Because if not, you just get these. You get kind of cliched stories, right? Stereotype stories of young people, and it's fascinating what is those magical moments and stories which can break through the kind of noise and make someone be like, oh, I never. I even, it's funny, right? We were talking about the fact that those two boys on stage. You're talking about two boys on stage. You're thinking, I'll probably say he wants to be a footballer. Might want to say he's a musician, and then in that moment he says, I want to be a mechanical engineer. You're thinking, wow, that's broken through my expectation, right? We tend to remember something when it doesn't meet our expectation. Our brains are always predicting what's going to happen, and that moment, that clash between expectation and reality is a big moment for us. So yeah, I'd love to have you there. Let's have further conversations about telling the stories about young people in the organization and other people who are doing really good relational work in this space.
So I definitely will look forward to that. 17th of February, the 17th. Yeah, send me that invitation. I'll see what I can do to be there. And what I mean?
No promises on the podcast. It's just I like it. You don't want a precedent every time anyone comes on. You got a new date in your diary. The pod's got to keep going, right? Let alone a Thursday night.
Look, this is
what made you start the podcast? It's been going on, you've been epic. 200 and what we at? 241?
220 at this present time.
Fortnightly, you just been twice a week. Have you just been? What? How did it come about?
Basically, the reason why I started the podcast, it's okay, in life, and I've told this story a couple of times. In life, when you okay, I'm in my late teens, early 20s, and you go out and you go, we are Legion, and all you hear is, oh, and you go out, you have a good time, When you hit your late 20s, your early 30s, it's like, we are Legion. It's like, okay. Now, when you hit for myself, late 30s, early 40s, we are Legion, and it's like, no, we're like this small crack unit. What get together? So it's we've each sort of decade, each sort of 5 years where people sort of get married, settle down, and everything like this. Those sort of opportunities to go out, meet people, have these conversations where you keep on learning and growing, start to leave you. And so with the podcast, it was an excellent opportunity to go, okay, right. I started out doing it just myself, talking on, yes, this is me, Ali B, and welcome to the Day in Day Out podcast. After 5 episodes, I was going, I cannot just do this talking to myself. I'm sick of my own voice. Let me talk to somebody. So it's given me this excellent opportunity to still learn, grow. And there are certain things I think about in this world where I might have been a little bit more set in my ways, but because I'm having these conversations, it helps keep me fluid. It helps keep me growing, helps keep me moving forward in a positive manner,
That's really inspiring to hear. I love that as a justification. So important. I mean, I see it myself now, right? At my age, I can see that chance to really interact at a meaningful level with people you might not always meet, to extract that passion and that joy from life. It becomes harder and harder unless you put things in your life purposefully to make it happen. So lovely to hear that as a sort of motivational story. And do you feel Legion? You're getting
that. Put it this way, my Legion has grown from my sort of legion of friends which are out there. It's now there's a little bit more added to that legion. So because this is the thing. One of the things which I'm fascinated about for yourself, because you we were talking earlier that you've got a new baby in this world, of 1 year old. I'm just wondering how you manage to sort of maintain your energy, because look, it's one of those things going out and everything like this. When you've got a little bubba in the mix, it makes it even harder as well. It's going, do I want to go out or do I want to sleep?
Yeah. Oh, how do I maintain my energy? I mean, I guess I'm trying to think about a useful way of talking about it. As in, I'm going to use a pretty technical football analogy, but I feel like you're going to roll with it. And I think it's going to come back around and make sense. But I'm a bit fried by that whole failed botany experiment, so I'm going to try my best to roll with this one. There's a Barcelona, Guardiola. Everyone hated him. They were so good, whatever. But they won. One of his principles of play was the 4-second press, which is the idea that as soon as, which is, I guess, gegenpressing, but as soon as you lose the ball, you got to win it back in 4 seconds. And then the whole 15 pass rule, you could always make 15 passes. So your team are set for when you lose the ball, right? Loads of like infuriating rules. It makes football a bit boring to watch because one team completely dominates another. Anyway, we know all that Man City at the moment. But I didn't realize that one of the big reasons for the 4-second press, because I always thought it was like, it just means you're near to the goal and you'll have a good chance of scoring. But the whole thing was their fitness coach, a guy called Cerulo, some Catalonian handball legend, basically had this idea that football teams didn't stop running because they got tired. They stopped running because they got demoralized, right? So that was the whole thing. Like, even if it means that like you're gonna have to run quickly yourself, you'll have the energy to do that because you'll be the ones who always have the ball. But yourself, you're playing football, like you get the ball, you lose it again, you're chasing again. So the sort of analogy or moment here within my life, like I am full of like purpose and passion, right? I've got a little girl and I'm delighted when I see her, and it's a wonderful part of my life. And I'm pretty strict. I live 5 minutes from the office. That's a wonderful part about founding your own organization. It's all in Brixton, my life essentially, which helps, right? So I'm trying to model a culture where people can have a life away from work because I'm all about relationships. So I'm congruent with that, right? I was on parental leave for 3 months, right? I'm spending time with my daughter. We're all about the relationships for young people. So I can't be saying that and then being in the office 7 a.m. till 9 p.m., right? So I have to fit it all around my life though, right? So I'm up at 6 a.m. tomorrow. I'll work from 6 till 7:30 tomorrow morning, and then I'll be with Zinni from 7:30 till 9. And then, so the reason I'm talking in such extended terms for this longest, most pointless answer probably of your podcast history is I think the energy, as long as within limits, as long as you've got the relationships, right, it comes from that purpose and that passion and that meaning. I feel worn out not by the amount of hours I've done in my life, but I feel like I'm worn out by a sense that it's pointless, that it's worthless. It's even crazy. I've been reading a book by a guy called Wade Davis, right, a big anthropologist. It's on National Geographic the whole time. He goes around and he's interested in language loss, particularly with different tribes, and he's all about he's all about wisdom from tribes and how it's just a different way of being. The thing I always read about whenever you're reading about, I don't know, some shaman or a wayfinder on a Polynesian vessel, these guys, there's always some people who just never seem to sleep. Like, I'm not that person. I like sleep. I sleep 8 or 9 hours. That's not my call. But it does make me think, right? Our sort of Western notion of this link between hours you work, amount you sleep, and energy that you have, I think he's probably missing a whole load of stuff, right? I found working during lockdown when I was not around my colleagues way more tiring than when I'm going to the office every day. So, this guy, this like Polynesian navigator, they're going from, I don't know, New Zealand to Hawaii. They're on these sort of big canoes, and apparently the navigator's only sleeping 2 hours a night because they're trying to navigate the whole time, right? It always seems to be these patterns of people who don't sleep, and I think that's because they have this tremendous sense of purpose and connection, and they're doing something in the service of others. And I think there's something which is often missed off that within the debate.
Excellent. No, like this again, I totally understand. No,
getting late. I'm saying that I'm getting a bit, it's been a long day. So
I hear you. No. I hear you. Now, okay. Look, final question, and then you'll be free. Set out into the universe. And yes,
wow.
I've to say, thank you for sticking with me at this rest of time. I know it ain't easy. It ain't easy. Now,
it's been wonderful. Lovely chat with you.
Hey, it's great talking to you. Now, the whole thing is, now, if there was a sort of like, not patron, but if there was a footballer you could you really wanted to meet, which footballer would that be? Because you've got an embarrassment of riches at this present time, and it's very highly possible.
Well, it's really funny because the footballers I care about are Bolton players from the 1990s. So that's the wonder of this. So I should get back in touch with them. I could probably get them for 50 quid. I mean, the reality is, moment, right? Who are the footballers? I think right now, of course, like Rashford is playing terribly, but for our young people, he's really represented something. So it's great that in time, I'm sure we will start to do work with him, and that's a lovely thing. I don't know, like from my perspective, my heroes were the guys growing up, like the Bolton players. They're the people like, when I can't get to sleep at night, you know, it's John McGinley, Alan Thompson, Jason McAteer, Liverpool, going through my head, Alan Stubbs, Evertonian, sorry. You know, it's these guys, JJ Kocher. So anyway, at the moment, really, we are doing a big promotional campaign with eBay where you can play with a hero. And the two options are Aniolo Aluku, I think he's still a pretty decent player, and Roberto Carlos, who I saw playing at the Masters World Cup 2 years ago, is terrible at football now, from what I can remember. Like, you know, he might be able to be better than Roberto Carlos. I shouldn't say that, but he was, at least then, he was struggling a bit for fitness. Let's just say. So, anyways, I'm too old to have heroes in the modern game. You know, my heroes are the people I grew up with, which, you know, who are now probably 45-year-old, 50-year-old men who are probably not that hard to contact if I wanted to do so, but not sure it would go down that well with our young people.
Oh, well, like, this is the thing. I think, look, hey, you should get
You
in
can always
contact with one of them. Yeah, you should do. Like, help fulfill that footballing dream. Okay, maybe don't get too doughy-eyed when you see them. There's a
absolutely one. Modern footballers, I don't. JJ Kocher will be the one for me, really. Like, Kocher when he signed for Bolton was a. I loved the World Cup '98. Loved Kocher in that World Cup. I used to have this video of him in the Denmark game. Nigeria lost that game, but just doing this wonderful trick where, like, he rolled and I did a double step over. And I just had the VHS of the World Cup '98 highlights, and I used to rewind it pre-YouTube, right, and just try and learn. I was obsessed with it, and then the idea that, I don't know, 4 years later he'd be coming to Bolton was a special moment for me. You know, I used to be called J. Ray Kocher on my Instagram. I got a Russian doll of different Bolton players, which I bought in Malaga in 2005, and the Kocher is the main person in that. So probably JJ out of anyone, really.
Okay, JJ Kocher. No, I love it. I love it.
Yeah, but you accepting that one, yeah? That's
fine. Like, look, if I didn't accept it, I'm going, yeah, okay, Jack, I know where you're going to be on the 17th. I'll be there. There's like, oh, no. But yeah. Jack, I got to say, yeah, thank you for coming on today. You have been an absolute superstar. I know you're struggling with the long day. I understand. I understand totally. Yeah. Can you tell the lovely people out there how they can find you out on these interwebs?
Whoa, we're talking about the comms. Go to our website. How about that? footballbeyondborders.org. And then you go to our Twitter, which is twitter.com/FBeyondBorders. And there is our Instagram. This is a test. I can see your eyes. What is our Instagram handle? Is it Instagram.com/FBeyondBorders or Football Beyond Borders? I think we might be Football Beyond Borders on that one. And then there's TikTok as well. TikTok is popping right now for us. So you want to see some of our young people, they are in their element on TikTok. So they are options. How can you find me? On LinkedIn. You'll find me on LinkedIn, I'm sure, the sort of businessman that I am. You get me on LinkedIn. That's how you got me after our event, of course.
What can I say? I was like, he was like, oh, we didn't talk. I was like, yeah, but you didn't know. You was like, I was like, I have a podcast. You're like, oh, you have a podcast. Oh, I should come on. I was like, all right, yes, that's what I was going to say. You're like, you didn't believe I'll be like, okay, yeah, here we are. It's like,
I believe. I looked in your eyes. I knew the way you were looking at that empty plate of food, your man, once he gets his eyes set on the on the prize, it's happening, right?
I would have taken it even if Rashford was there. They say, hey, Rashford, what's that over there? Oh, okay. It's like, yum, 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 yum. Did you just take my chicken? No. Yum, 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 yum. Well, dude, my friends, my life warriors, I'll put all of the notes, all of the links in the notes in this description so you can find young Jack out there. Yes.
Be quiet now. I feel like I've got to be quiet on the closing credits, so I'm just keep it quiet to let you do your bit. But thank you, young Jack. It's a long time since I've been called young Jack. So
hey, look, I got to say, look, once again, I will call you young Jack. Thank you, young Jack, for coming on today. You have been a superstar, legend, and just all round outstanding. Yeah.
Love that. Thank you. See you soon. Great chatting to you.
Yeah. And I'd like to say thank you to you, my friends, my life warriors out there who have stuck with us till the end. Please stay well, stay safe, be awesome, be excellent, be fantastic. Be all the positive bees and then some. Have a great day, guys. And yeah, see you soon. Peace. And we are